Hello everyone and welcome back to PAX and Recreation. Uh, Sometimes I say the welcome back and I think like, can you imagine that I'm saying like welcome back to PAX, like a herd of two packs, like a bunch of two packs, like the rapper, a bunch of them, and then just a guy called Recreation. So welcome back, and today we're going to open the Commander decks, as you already know by the title. But first, just want to point something. As you may have realized, we are using a different playmat. We normally try to change them. This time is for Bloomburrow. This is a foil playmat, believe it or not, which maybe on the camera doesn't show that much, but this thing is actually like this thing is actually very nice. Like, you may have seen some in the past. We did some other videos. Like if you see the seams here, like the seams are not foil. See, so that's the difference. And yes, if you're like me, likely you don't like the holo foil playmat from Ultra Pro because they look like shit. And I bought one for March of the Machine, the Aftermath. Yes, I know it's the worst set in history for Magic the Gathering. I know, but I really liked that art style that looked like Days of Future Past with the posters and all that shit stuff. Like, I really loved it, right? So I bought it. And then because it was holofoil, it didn't look that great. And then we also bought the Lord of the Rings one, which you can see in the Lord of the Rings collector booster openings and stuff like that. That has Frodo and so on. You know, the green art of the same art that is in the collector boosters of Frodo trying to grab the ring and so on. And it also looks kind of meh, so I never get the point of like, why holofoil? But this time, my Lady Mabel here just looks amazing. And why? Take note, Ultra Pro, please. This is like a two-in-one. We talk about the Commander decks and also like a mini review of the playmat, because the material is more or less the same. I have played with them, you know, a lot. I don't know if like super duper, you know, heavy duty, but I play with them and they don't peel off, at least. Well, maybe it's because I treat them properly, but they do have like a different texture, because as you can see, it has this like, you know, this pattern that is basically the foily thing, right? This pattern doesn't exist where the seams are, right? So that's the foily thing, and it doesn't come off like if you do like this, but it has a slightly different feeling. Like when you pass your hands or your gloves next to it, it you know, it sounds like it's get ready for ASMR. It sounds like instead of like normally sound, but it's still smooth. It's still nice. And here's the logo for Bloomburrow, which I don't know if you can see, but I love it in the corner. Now, why this one looks great, actually, because the colors actually match the whatever foily thing they are using here. So since it's in tones of yellow and brown and so on, it looks very, very, very nice. It looks actually beautiful. And the texture actually helps giving it a, you know, like a handcraft stained glass kind of feeling to it. So it actually looks very, very nice. So for once, very good job, Ultra Pro, on this one, because I think the art matches. But yeah, so with that out of the way, stop, Wizards, stop printing Commander decks and stuff for us to play. This is, as per usual, the box of the Commander decks. So as you may know, if you're new to the channel, this is the explanation time, I guess. But if you are not new to the channel, well, I apologize for repeating myself for the 11th time. But as is the custom in this channel, because I have several problems, we normally buy a set of Commander decks, because I really love PreCons. I'm not making fun of no one here. Like, it's not a statement or anything. I really love PreCons overall. So why do I love PreCons so much? Because, well, for better or worse, I'm a busy person, and I'm sure that a lot of you are as well. And even though I would love to sit down and like build my deck, and I really love deck building, I sometimes don't have the time. So if you just give me the deck done, it's like, thank you, let's play Commander, right? And they are more or less balanced, right? Like if I want to play CEDH, I will play CEDH, and, you know, have a deck with all the stuff that is important proxied. Actually, I have one somewhere, and the deck is like a turn 0, turn 1 deck to win, but that's to that. Sometimes I just want to play with friends and with interesting decks and so on. And because of time and other factors, I don't consider myself a very creative person, so I really like PreCons. Now, I don't like the fact that we have so many precons in a year. It's exhausting me. But what we do normally in this channel is we buy a set, we play with them. When I say we, it's like me and my friends and so on. And then I unbox another set in front of the camera, and normally I distribute the cards or whatever, like between me and my friends or something. Like, you know, it doesn't go to waste. And the reason why I do this is because, well, we open stuff in this channel, but I actually want to give you a review after playing with them physically for a while. Because, you know, I can just see the deck list and be like, oh, this is going to be a good deck. But sometimes just playing with it is how you feel it. And yes, you could emulate it, but we like cardboard here, what can I say? So we have 4 decks. I was actually kind of excited for these decks, for the themes of this deck, even though, as I said in the pre-release video, Bloomburrow is not my most expected set of the year. That will be Duskmourn, because I like the theme a lot. But ironically, even though Assassin's Creed and Fallout came this year, and I actually like that too, but Bloomburrow, I think, is objectively the best set of the year, but you may think differently. And these are the 4 commander decks. Now, why I was excited about it, not only because of the juxtaposition, new word of the day, of, you know, cute animals and weird stuff, right? I think that these 2 are the more like things that you would expect from a cutesy animal. These 2 are more like, sorry, what? But, you know, raccoons, birds, bunnies and squirrels, and a squirrel is a necromancer that always hits. And you have the, you know, when I saw these, I was like, okay, so zombie tokens, artifacts in Gruul, I guess, which I wasn't wrong, because you can tell this is like what great visual design looks like. Just because of this and the description, I was like, okay, is artifacts in Gruul. And then Peace Offering and Family Matters. Family Matters said make offspring go white, so I was like, okay, it's tokens or something, which we will see in a second. And I was the more excited about Peace Offering because I like group hug decks. Why? Because as I have stated multiple times in this channel, by the way, disclaimer, if you're new to the channel, the deck reviews in this channel, as you may have seen by the timeline down below, are very long. And it's kind of more like a podcast while we open this. So yeah, because otherwise just go see the deck list. You know what I mean? Like there is nothing new here. Like, you know what I mean? So I like group hug decks because I like the different win conditions or different play styles. So whenever a commander deck does something interesting and new, I actually get very excited, because doing decks that are like typal and +1/+1 and so on, it's cool. Like, I don't hate it, but you know, it just feels boring. And group hug, it's one of those things that is like counterintuitive, like build cards and an entire deck that helps your opponents, but helps you a little bit more so that you can win, and you can asphyxiate them with a hug. So that's kind of interesting. So you already know that I'm biased towards one of the decks, but we will review them all, and then at the end I will like do the ranking thing that we normally do in terms of like a favorite, the one that I like to play the most, the one that I think is the strongest, the one that I think that, you know, financial value. Again, there are better videos for that. The Professor ones, for example, are great videos. I can never match that man. That man is an inspiration. So, and you know, he's far earlier than me. So if you want to see the financial value, see that. You can look at the financial value now, but it's not going to be the same as the video in the Professor because some time already passed, which is kind of more the thing. This is more like you want to buy them now or for cheap on Christmas or something. You just want, you know, to know how the thing plays. We stand for precons here, right? So let's see. Can we go? Actually, this thing is in alphabetical order. Yep. So let's do it. Let's do it in alphabetical order. Let's start with Animated Army. So make trash, do smash, and it has a raccoon. So, you know, they are already leaning into that whole MCU thing with the raccoon and smash. You know, or maybe it's just me that I'm paranoid. Now, this is the new style of commander deck box that is, you know, a slight foil, and then just the commander is in preview here. They don't show you any other cards. They already assume that you know it is what it is, and it says battle your friends with powerful creatures and spectacular spells in commander. Blah, blah, blah. One creature's trash is another one's treasure with bellow. who animates artifacts and enchantments into mighty elementals. So, it's like artifacts, but not really. Ramp up your mana and throw down some expensive spells to burn with chaotic fury. So, I wasn't very excited about this one because this one is Gruul, and if there is a color combination that I almost never play as, is Gruul. So, let's see the message on the bottom, because I always love these things. Take them out with the trash, which is great. Like, is there a team that thinks about that? Is there a person that has like a sprint that is like, okay, for this sprint you have to come up with the quips for the commander boxes, and the person is like, okay, will do. So the usual envelope. There is a change this time in the commander decks, and is one that we have been asking for, I think, because you have the deck box, and then you have the collector booster sample pack. And you may have realized that that's it. We don't have a life counter. So they removed the life counter on these commander decks, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I'm just even going to assemble the box because, whatever. But you have this thing here, so no longer has the card, so you can just cut it and make another card out of cardboard, which, come on, Wizards, let me proxy. And some counters, the usual. And the insert and the deck. So every time that boxes are smaller, and every time we get less stuff with the Commander Precons, bro. This is the life we're living. So Bellow, Bard of the Brambles. And Bellow awakens the mighty elemental calamity, blah, 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 blah. You can read that if you want. I love inserts, but not that much when they're kind of boring. And then lore. Bellow, Bard of the Brambles. The Ringtail Bard, the Trinket Master, and most recently, the Omen Trotter. These are just small samples of the monikers Bellow has earned over the course of his journey. He has traveled all corners of Bloomburrow, and now, beyond collecting trinkets, braving the elements, and lightning in foreign cuisines, Bellow has gained wisdom and confidence from his many harrowing adventures, but he won't deny that unfamiliar words present a whole new level, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if you want to read the story, there you go. We do love inserts. So there is that, and they removed the life counter. Now, did they give us anything in exchange for the life counter? Technically they did, so I don't like it. So let's be clear here. Like, Wizards has an economy. Like, actually they have a financial, well, financial is kind of not the right word, but like they have like financial advisors in their team just because of the card economy. So Wizards can pretend that the secondary market doesn't exist, but they know it exists. So, and they treat their cards as an economy. They have to, right? And why do I say that? Because, people buy the game with the expectation of playing, and technically they sell it as that, the expectation of playing, but, and just a game. And that's why they are not loot boxes, bro. It's just a card game for kids. But at the end of the day, for a lot of people, it's an inversion. No, not an inversion. An investment, sorry. It's an investment and a way of life. And because of that, they know that they can do certain reprints and so on. For example, Italy Primal Storm is here. They know why it's there. It's a good reprint that is losing value with each reprint. So Wizards knows. That's why they also print newer cards, more powerful cards, more cool cards, to just inject more value into the economy. They bring some reprints from time to time, that kind of thing, because they want to, keep their economy alive, because it's an economy. Now, they do that with the reprints and with the lands and so on. Now, the precons, and these precons in particular, actually have a good mana base compared to some of the others of the past. So they are improving there, so you get more value, more bang for your buck, if you care about that. But then they do these trade-offs, right? So first they remove, this is like, that phrase that is actually, it's like a poem or something, but it became like a meme, sadly, that is like, first they came for the gingers, and I said nothing because I'm not a ginger. First, and then they came for the blondes, but I said nothing because I'm not a blonde. and blah, blah, blah. And at the end, they came for me, but there was nothing to defend me, right? No one to defend me. So here's kind of, saving the distances is kind of a similar thing. It's like, first they made the boxes smaller, they removed the thing, then they removed that, and no one said anything because no one cares, right? And now, like, I think it was in Murders at Karlov Manor, they removed the plastic commander. I think, I can't remember, maybe, or was it in Thunder Junction? I can't remember. Like, they removed the plastic commander, which, now it turns out that no one cared about the plastic commander. I cared about the plastic commander. I use it as a divider for the tokens, so I can pull the tokens for that deck in particular. But okay, no one cared about that one, and it was a plastic card, or at least like very strong cardboard. I think it's more like a very strong cardboard than plastic, but whatever. I digress. Like, it was a thing that they gave us. It's like, no one cared because they gave us the commander in full art. Ooh, and it's like, oh well, okay. The commander in full art is more important than the plastic commander because I don't want 2 copies of the same card, which is weird because kind of you would like 2 copies of the same card if the commander is good, but whatever. And now, even though I complain in every video that the life wheel went from having a drawing or something from the same commander deck to just having the Magic the Gathering Planeswalker logo in orange, like the most generic thing. And I was like, Wizards, if you're doing this, just remove it. And they listened, apparently. Sadly, they only listen to that stuff. They don't listen to like, please stop the secret layers from being like a scammer's scalper game, but whatever. So now, because I removed the life wheel, you have the commander in full art foil. You have the secondary commander in foil, which sadly is not, full art or anything because the secondary commander deserves no love. Then now you get a third card in foil. In this case, is a planeswalker, right? In this case, is Domri, Anarch of Bolas, right? So what if this card was in Bloomburrow? So it becomes an animal, right? And it looks very nice. I love it. I think this is great. Now, I do have to ask, what is that math that they are doing, or meth that they are doing, in the sense that it's like, well, one card in foil, yeah, that's worth the life wheel. It's like, it's not. The life wheel is heavier, more expensive, uses more cardboard, like it's a bigger component, like maybe for most players because they don't use them, because they use dice or something, maybe, but why is this an equivalent exchange? I mean, don't get me wrong, I prefer these because I don't use the life wheels, but the life wheels seem to be more value, I guess, which is weird. Even more if you remember that in the previous commander decks of the past, we had 3 foils, not 1 foil. Like, remember the 2017 commander decks? We had 3 or even 4 foils because you had the partner system. And now they are treating foils in commander decks like they are this weird commodity. It's like, I don't know. So sorry for the rant. This is only going to happen for the first deck because this is, we're explaining the change here. But I don't know what Wizards' game is. I mean, well, it's Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, but like, I don't know why they do this. Like, Wizards is cardboard. Like, your margins are already crazy. Like, yes, you have to pay R&D and you have to pay artists, but come on, like, what's up? So, getting back into topic, the commander here is Bello, Bard of the Brambles. It costs 1 red and 1 green, so a very gruel commander, and it's a 3/3 Raccoon Bard that says, during your turn, each non-equipment artifact and non-aura enchantment you control with mana value 4 or greater is a 4/4 elemental creature in addition to its other types and has indestructible haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, which sounds pretty good. And people were very excited about this, but you have to remember 2 things, and you have to remember that as we go through the deck, which are, 1, it says during your turn. So technically it's like vehicles, like it's artifacts that become offensive, but only during your turn if you crew them. Here is the same. It's like, well, they are only 4/4 elementals with indestructible and haste if it's your turn, and if their mana value is 4 or greater. So we're talking about a lot of whales. Second, this deck out of the box, which we're going to review as we look at the cards, is not that bad in terms of value. value, like mana values. Sorry, not value like monetary value or like in terms of mana values. But I think it's one of the decks that suffers the most of the concept of if you exchange a lot of cards, this deck will become amazing. But you really have to tailor to it because 4 or greater enchantments and artifacts in the Gruul color combination. It's not it's a thing because of green, but they only can attack in your turn. And remember, if for some reason they are tappable artifacts, if you attack with them, they're already tapped, so you can't use them for mana song, which we're going to see in a second. So interesting, not that bad. Then the secondary commander is Wildseer Scoring Maw, which is a 6/6 elemental wolf that costs 3, 1 red and 1 green. It has trample, and it says enchantment spells you cast from your hand have cascade, which is a different game completely, right? So, but also is a different commander, like, but like Belo is like, okay, enchantments and artifacts that are not auras or equipments, they have this thing, right, in your turn, and that's good. But what Wildseer is saying is like, okay, so do an enchantment deck, because in this one you can go with artifacts, you can go with enchantments, you can go both ways, you can go only one way, right? You can go. This is kind of flexible, and the deck plays into that. But Wildseer is like, okay, just go enchantments. Do an enchantment deck in Gruul colors, and just go wild, like just because they have cascades, so it's going to be boom, 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 So not that bad. It's kind of interesting to play with this guy, not within this deck, which we're going to see in a second. And then the Planeswalker. Now every deck comes with a Planeswalker because Domri, Anarch of Bolas is the classic 1 red, 1 green, 3 loyalty commander that says creatures you control get +1/+0, which applies to your elemental creatures when they convert in this deck, so it matches. And then +1 gives you red or green mana. Creature spells you cast this turn can be countered, which is kind of good. And the -2, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So Domri is not going to be a defining Planeswalker or anything like that. It's a cool Planeswalker to have there on the side. It gives you +1/+0, facilitates mana, facilitates removal because you can put your creatures to fight other creatures, which is removal in red and green pretty much. Well, in green because red is damage, but like not bad. So I don't know if it fits this deck, but we're going to talk about that. So there is that. Now we're actually going backwards with this deck. I got so entrailed by the whole they removed the life counter thing that I didn't do the normal order. The normal order is let's look at the tokens, let's try to guess what the deck is all about, right? So you have a hamster, nice art, amazing art. City's Blessing, a beast, a hamster, another beast, so a 4/4 beast, a 3/3 beast. Would you say that this one is the 4/4 and this one is the 3/3? I mean, maybe because of the size of the trees around it, but like this one looks more intimidating, but whatever. Am I the same artist? Nope. So a beast that is a cat, a literal cat, a beast that is a cat, a saproling, there is a hamster, a saproling, there is a treasure, and this is a very nice treasure, a saproling, there is a treasure, a saproling, there is a treasure. Prosperous Bandit is a token creature raccoon rogue, which you're going to see in a second what card generates this, has first strike. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to the player, create that many tapped treasure tokens. This token's mana cost is 2 and 1 red, which is to avoid you from doing things with it. Treasure and beast, there's also treasure. So you see where this is going. A lot of beasts. Ironically, not a lot of, not a placeholder here for elementals or anything, which is interesting. It has treasures because that's red's thing now. Let's open these very briefly because we did this in a different order. Let's see what the collector booster sample pack has. Liliana and Mabel. So see the playmat, which is a great match. Mabel, heir to Crackflame. So for 1 red and 1 white, is a mouse soldier. It's a 3/3. Other mice you control get +1/+1. And when Mabel just enters, because this is the set where they change from enters the battlefield to enters, which I don't like it. Create Crackflame, A legendary colorless equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has vigilance, trample, and haste, and equip 2. So not bad. And then Mabel's Metal, which is nice that we have two Mabel cards in the same thing. Better than this, just really the token for the sword, but they don't put tokens in here, so it is what it is. Not bad for as long as pools go. So here, what is the deck about? Well, big enchantments and auras, which is interesting because you will see that we have some creatures here because this is Gruul, so you're supposed to go Gruul Smash. And you have a Tally, which goddamn, so Prosperous Bandit, not bad. This is like one of the sources for treasure tokens, is kind of the idea. I love how they put a Tally here, like, yo, look at the Tally, and it's not even a new card. Normally they put the new cards first, so that you see the new cards. A Tally is just here like, yeah, we're giving you value, boys, and it's like, thank you, Grandpa, I guess. Pireswipe Hawk. This card is okay. I mean, whenever you expend 6, gain control of up to 2 target artifacts for as long as you control pirates. You expend 6 as you spend 6 of your 6 total mana. So whenever you use mana, which is kind of the idea here, but not really, because you need mana quickly, which is interesting because, I mean, this is Gruul, so you have green, so you have ramp. And Gruul is... A lot of people make fun of Gruul because it's the Hulk Smash color, right? It's like go fast, do damage, and grow exponentially, right? That's Gruul. That's the way a lot of people don't like to play it. I like to play Gruul. I like, more indirect ways of winning, but nothing wrong with Gruul. Now, if you have green and red, it means that you have to grow ultra fast, which we're going to see in a second with the mana base. That is kind of not really the case. It's there, but you're not going to go like crazy, go boom, you know what I mean? When you have a talent, Alchemist Talent, which, okay, Berserker's Onslaught, attacking creatures you control have double strike. So you see the thing, right? But enchantment that costs 5, right? So it's like, okay, but it gives double strike to everything. And you have a talent here that's an enchantment as well, right? So like you're going to see that all enchantments are 4 or more. That's the joke, right? Otherwise, you can't use them with your commander. Now, even if you use the secondary commander and you do Cascade, it kind of works because everything is around 4. So the more expensive something is, the better for you. Outpost Siege, Reign of Riches, which is not a bad card at all. When Reign of Riches enters, create 2 treasure tokens. The first spell you cast each turn that mana from a treasure was used to cast has Cascade. Sorry, what? Like, and you can just create treasure tokens with some of the other cards, like Prosperous Bandit, right? So, and you just want this to sit here and convert it into an elemental and just keep attacking, which is great. Sadly, your commander doesn't create treasure tokens, which is interesting, because I guess that they didn't want it to ramp out of control, but it says whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, right? So you have the whole red-green thing going here. But if it says whenever you deal combat damage to a player and you have to reward a Gruul card, my bet will be give me treasure tokens, you know what I mean? Like, because it's a raccoon, and the whole thing of the deck is one man's trash is another man's treasure, like literally treasure, right? Like it says it here, make trash, do smash. Now, yes, maybe generating treasure tokens will be too broken in this deck because it can lead to a very dangerous cycle of just you having too much ramp. But considering that all the spells are very expensive, it seems like that will be the correct way of having that commander working. Drawing a card is more of a blue thing, but technically drawing a card is the most valuable thing in Magic, so I guess it's correct. But just some removal. Again, a lot of very expensive summonings, so like Sunbird Invocation has nothing to do with Pireswipe Hawk, believe it or not. It's not like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like one card calls the other. Star Storm, this is an instant, so it doesn't really, just removal, I guess. Gratuitous Violence. It feels very weird to have a lot of enchantments in red and green, and they being so expensive. Lotus Cobra, Evercode Ursine, like, now they also did this division of like all the red cards and all the green cards, and then the deck. It's, I don't know who decides the order the cards go in, but it's certainly weird. Evercourt Orsin, they change with every 2 sets or something. Trail Tracker Scout, Thickest in the Ticket, Galta. So you have Galta and you have Etali. So welcome back to what was the name of the dinosaur plane again? Excellent. So Essica's Chariot. So basically, again, this is this deck, maybe it's because it's Gruul, but it's very straightforward. Once you read the commander, everything becomes very clear. Oh, Kodama. Like, everything becomes very clear. Like, you just have a bunch of enchantments that are very expensive. That's kind of the thing. And then because you have your Gruul, you have big creatures there, I guess, because thing go boom, you know what I mean? But it doesn't feel like, like, then you have this, like, lands you control have tap, create a treasure token, which is a shame that this thing is here, because there's a reason why. See, this is good because this doesn't need to tap as an artifact. It just needs you to, your lands tap and create a treasure token. So you create treasure tokens, which you can tap to do stuff, but those treasure tokens don't have like a good enough mana value, so you can't, there's no engine here. The thing that you can do with them is you can use them for sacrifice engines and stuff like that, because you're sacrificing tokens, right? But it's not directly tied to the commander. Even the freaking Gilded Lotus is here. Like, I think Tran Dynamo, if I recall correctly, is also here. It's just a bunch of fat things for the sake of fat things being. But now you will see the mana base. And as you can see, it's like, well, this kind of ramps you, more or less. But then, this is kind of the problem. Same problem that, Tran Dynamo has, and like this card is actually an exception, because this one says your lands generate treasure tokens, so you can do whatever you want with your treasure tokens, but your treasure tokens are not mana value 4 or greater, so they don't count for a Belo. So it's kind of whatever. It's nice. It creates a bunch of noise, and yes, if you have a bunch of lands in one color, you have treasure tokens that give you any color, so you can just play with that. But it's not, like, I don't think the deck uses that card as it could be used, but cards like Gilded Lotus are the problem here, because you see Gilded Lotus and you're like, oh man, 5 for 3 of any one color. Okay, cool, but is Gruul, is Ramp, it's okay. It's like, it's not, because the moment you play this and your commander is on the battlefield, this thing will become an elemental, and you want it to become an elemental, maybe to swing with it, but it doesn't have, like, it would be crazy if they had Vigilance. It would be freaking crazy. But Vigilance is not a red-green thing. So they have Indestructible and Haste. So you go swing with them. They're not going to die. They can swing right away. And then they are tapped because you attack with them. So you can't use Gilded Lotus that turn. And if you use Gilded Lotus that turn, you can't swing with it. So this is kind of the problem of a lot of the cards in here. And that's why I say that if you are doing this deck, if you want to do a version of the deck, because I don't think the commander is that bad. I think it looks nerfed for some reason. I think that they play tested it and they were like, oh, yikes, okay. Like see, they have a bunch of very good lands, not like crazy. They're not dual lands, right? But fairly decent lands here, and you need them because you need a ramp, and Blasphemous Act, but in Bloomburrow theme, which is amazing. So because I was kind of sick of the art of that guy that looks like guts that is just dying there. This one is more like interesting. But overall, you feel like you have a lot of you have some mana dorks and so on. Like Goreclaw is here because of course you can explore, you create more lands. You have sun removal, some damage removal, and some target and some battle removal because red and green. You're playing additional land this turn, which is great, and you have stuff like that, right? Essential library for playing. So you have the green part of green just to grow you as fast as possible, And then you have things that are just here for the sake of being here, like Thought Vessel. Like Thought Vessel is one of those mana rocks that is just like, oh, okay, 2 for 1, you have no maximum hand size. That's cool because sometimes you don't have. Like Thought Vessel is almost like a default part of the 99 to the point that it's no longer 99. It feels more like 85 because there are like 14 cards that are always there. Like Thought Vessel, Command Tower, Solar Ring, blah blah blah. Like Arcane Signet, like. But Thought Vessel, for example, is not a crazy good card for this deck, and it doesn't have the mana value for you to convert it. And then again, we go back to my point, right? So it's kind of there, right? It's kind of there. You have some ramp, you have a lot of create beasts or generate beasts or stuff like that. But everything that is not cards like this, like Harmonize, everything that is not an enchantment or an enchantment or an artifact with this cost just feels like stupid. Like in this deck, just feels stupid. Like Harmonize is not an awful card because draw 3 cards for 2 and 2 green. Okay, it's not bad. But for the mission that you're trying to achieve here, it's not super crazy. And then you have like Gruul Signet. Cool, I guess, but like these are the mana rocks that you're not going to transform. So I guess these are your mana rocks for real. But then Hedron Archive. It's like, what are you gonna do with it? Are you gonna swing with it or are you gonna tap it for 2? Because you know what I mean? Like Tran Dynamo, same example. Like, are you gonna tap it for 3? Or are you gonna use it as an elemental, right? So I think that's where the main confusion in this deck comes from. Then you have all these talismans, all this stuff, which is nice because you need a ramp, and the deck has decent ramp. It doesn't have the craziest of ramps, right? But everything that is not directly into serving the commander theme feels kind of weird. Like Etali itself is like, thank you for the reprint, I guess. And that's why like it's the first card you get after removing this. It's like, oh, Etali, oh, crazy, because it's like, what are we like? Whenever it attacks, except the top card of each player's library, then you may cast a number of those cards without paying their mana cost, which is amazing. Everyone loves Etali, but what is Etali doing here exactly? Like, you know what I mean? Like, this feels more like something that I will throw into a deck that I kind of already built, and I have like, oh, I'm missing, which is never the case actually, but normally it's the opposite. It's like, oh, I am 20 cards over and I need to cut 20, right? But this here feels a lot like, oh, I need to add 10 cards. Well, let's add a tally. Let's add, I don't know, Galta, right? Let's add Kodama, Grothama, and the other one that was around here. Like, let's add those cards. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, you need big things because this is Gruul. Like, you're not going to not have big things. And I mean, not trying to hate on Gruul or anything. Like, I swear, guys, I swear. Like, it's cool. But the problem is, and we're going to like get more into the strategies when we compare it with the others, but it just feels a little disconnected, right? Like, normally what happens with these decks is you can tell that it's normally built for the main commander, then the secondary commander is there to give you like a secondary way of playing, kind of thing. And the deck can go any way, but it's normally more catered towards the main commander. That's how it works, normally. However, sometimes it's not even like one or the other. It's just like half and half. Sometimes it's like 30, and then something else. Like, it depends. This time it feels very weird, right? Because it feels like the deck was built for Velo. This kind of fits in there. This actually fits half the deck. Like, all the artifacts do nothing with this. I mean, they have Cascade, so you can get an artifact from Cascade. Like, it doesn't say that it's Cascade for enchantments, right? But normally when you cast, because Cascade doesn't trigger again enchantments, so I guess it's okay. But like, it does feel like like this commander is using only half the potential of the deck, and this one is the one that. But the way this commander works, the deck just feels like half the deck is there for the commander, the other half is just someone was like, wait, what colors are we doing? It's like Gruul. Oh fuck, okay. Then add Etali and add this and add that. You know what I mean? It feels very forced. So overall, not a bad deck. Kind of chaotic to play with, which I guess is the case if you go on Gruul. But it doesn't feel Gruul when you play. You know what I mean? It feels more Gruul when you play Etali or something like that, or Kodama, like, because those are typical red and green creatures, but the strategy of the deck doesn't feel Gruul, which is interesting because it doesn't have to be like that. Like, we have those profiles because of Ravnica, but in this case, it's like, well, it's an interesting idea with those colors. So, you know, it has the red aspect and the green aspect. Like, it doesn't have to be Gruul, like, you know, big smash. It does say on the box, it says, make trash, do smash. Like, it is trying to write that thing, but I don't know. It feels there. Playing with it feels very chaotic, but not in the good way of you doing chaos, but the deck doing chaos with you, which is not something that you want, right? So there is that for the first deck, and then you may be looking at the timeline and be like, yay! All that for the first deck is like, mind you, the next ones are going to be faster because we're not going to talk about the life counters or anything like that. Now, next in line, F for Family Matters. Make offspring go wide. So the bird. The bird that looks more like a bard than the bard. So, I don't know. Dungeons and Dragons much? Sinala, or sorry, Sinala, my god. Sinia looks like a stork, which I guess it's the case. That was my idea. And, you know, it says make offspring. So I was like, well, that's a stork, I guess, or something. I don't know. So I guess I was guessing that was the topic. And then it says Sinia Valley's voice, the jovial troubadour, which is also a bard, a different type of bard. Sinia crashes literally into Tree City and has delighted denizens ever since, but they are silent on their mysterious past. Now, Sinia delivers the pain plus a whole liter of 1/1 token offspring that double up on enter the battlefield effects. Each of your creature spells gains the offspring ability, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see in a second what is the thing here, and I will give you a spoiler warning right away that this deck is the deck that many people consider birds of a feather fight together. This is the deck that many people consider the best commander deck of Bloomburrow. Now, will I be a contrarian or will I agree? Let's find out. So, normally I am a bit of a contrarian, to no one's surprise. So again, here, what we are expecting, I guess, is nothing. It's just the box. And then the sample booster and nothing else. So, which, now that I think about it, like, for once, normally I assemble the boxes and I put the stuff in there, but it's because I have the plastic card and all that stuff. But now I don't. So I can just really, you know, F in the chat. So dividers, again, or mini dividers, I don't even know if those count as dividers. The counters, the insert, the deck. Let's see the insert. Let's see that beautiful baby. Let's go. So a very colorful bird, Xenia, Valley's Boys. Playing the deck, congratulations! It's a 1/1 token. Xenia is obtained and bringing a colorful menage of offspring with them. Each of the creature spells are granted a new offspring mechanic, blah, 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 with only one power can be. And then the history of Xenia, like amazing art. All the pieces of art of Xenia are just beautiful. Not that the others are not, but Xenia just has this weird quality to it. Xenia's history is a curiosity to all. Despite being an open book with their outgoing and bumbling demeanor, no one knows where Xenia came from. They crash into Tree City, literally, and have been delighting citizens with their loot ever since, boasting the never-ending array of romantic ballads to a taste for adventure. Jimmy brings joy, Boba. So, freeze the screen if you want to read that. That's the flavor. Mind you, I already read it. That's why I'm like chill. And let's see what the collector booster sample has before we go into the deck. Now, you can already, Wizards is it's either getting better at describing what the decks do in their boxes, or they are just not that original anymore, because by reading the description of the box, you can already kind of tell what the deck does. So Fecund Green Shell. I love this card for multiple reasons, but the card is not that, it's not that crazy good. And a Pureless Recycling in foil. Not bad, not crazy, but not bad either. Why do I say that? Because, well, now you read the description, there is no much point to our token game anymore. Like, you can, which in their defense, okay, like this is not like, let's shit on Wizards 24/7. Like, in their defense, that's the way it should be, right? Like, if a PreCon normally is for less, either players like me that don't have the time or the will, or just new players. You just buy a deck, start playing. Like, that's why they do the decks, right? Or because they want to show new stuff to the community, or they have ideas or something. It's not because of financial value. So, because of that, I think that the play here, right, with these decks is actually cool. You grab the box in the store, like, I guess Walmart, or even, I would say your local game store, but if you go to a local game store, I'm guessing the person there will try to guide you a little bit. That's kind of the beauty of a local game store, or even the other players. Or if you go to a local game store, technically you see videos like this and stuff like that, so you're not new. But if you grab these at Walmart or something, you get attracted by the shiny box. You have the description here, kind of cool. I am not that much into just showing one card, because it's like whatever, but it's Commander, so I guess this is the one card that matters. But we're getting there. So let's see the tokens. Let's see what this deck is all about. You have a soldier, a human soldier, which feels like a flavor miss, to be honest. A citizen, which again is a human, which seems like a flavor miss. A human, which seems like a flavor miss. Another soldier, a rabbit, treasure, rabbit. Agate Instigator, which, makes sense. Stormcrow, Frog Lizard, Stormcrow, Bird, Phyrexian Golem, so beware. Fairy, Spirit, Fairy, Goblin, Thopter, Illusion, and a Goblin. So, all over the place. And why is that? Because if you see the description for Zinnia Valley's Voice, for 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white, is a 1/3 bird bard that has flying, of course, because it's a bird. And, well, of course, some birds don't fly, whatever. Zinnia Valley's Voice gets +X+0, where X is the number of other creatures you control with base power 1. Creature spells you cast have offspring 2. So everything has offspring. If you pay an additional 2 as you cast this creature spell, you can they have a son or daughter, right? They have offspring. That basically means that you create a 1/1 copy of it that has the same effect. So the idea of this deck is enter the battlefield effect, because when it enters, it copies, or at least effects that are ongoing that multiply each other. So this commander is kind of, it's not broken, but it's kind of broken. And this is why a lot of people are like, whoa, this deck is crazy. Like, to be honest, what kind of nerfs this deck is that there is no green in here. So, like, your ramp is not going to be that fast, but you kind of, with blue, red, and white, yeah, you can ramp. Like, it gets +X+0, where X is the number of other creatures you control with base power 1. So the more babies you have, the more powerful it gets, which, it has flying, is a commander, so you're going to swing at people and do commander damage, so not bad. And you will see in a second why this deck is the preferred one by a lot of people. I think it's also the boring one, but that's just me. And then you have Arthur, Marigold Knight. So for 2, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white, is a legendary creature, Mouse Knight. It's a 4/5 with haste, and it says whenever Arthur, Marigold Knight, and at least one other creature attack, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Return that creature to its owner's hand at the end of combat. So Arthur has nothing to do with the rest of the... I mean, Arthur... Poor Arthur, right? Like, like Arthur is kind of expensive, 2, 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white for a 4/5 with haste, which is, it's not ultra bad. But then it needs to attack with another creature, right? So you look at top 6 cards, you may put a creature from them in the battlefield tapped and attacking, and then that creature goes back to the hand at the end of combat. So as a way of getting creatures and swinging with them, it's not that bad. But you do need to have another creature attacking with Arthur. So it's 2 creatures swinging. To get another one swinging, which, it put it into, onto the battlefield, tap and attacking. I don't even know if it triggers the enter the battlefield effect. I don't think so. Even though I did enter the battlefield. So, maybe. Time for a judge. Let's see. And we're back. Yeah, so after, because we did play with this card, but this card was not the main commander, so I never actually saw this card like super duper in action. But yeah, basically, it's exactly what I was saying. So poor Arthur, because the card is good, it's not that good. They basically did like overcorrected Winota, and yeah, but so problem with this commander. So this commander is great. This commander is not that good, and likely if you're going to build on this, you're going to remove this one from the deck, which is sad. And Arthur, I don't think is strong enough to hold that deck on its own, because it has haste whenever Arthur and at least one other creature attacks. So you need to have more creatures here to attack. If it was him alone, you could attack and then just do something like what's the name? Kali of the Vast, right? Just have the deck full of heavy hitters with enter the battlefield effects and just go boom, and then it goes to your hand, and then boom, and then it goes to your hand. You know what I mean? But you need to have some other creatures there to be attacking, and it doesn't have any protection or anything, so it's not very likely you're going to trigger this a lot. It has too many ifs here for me to like Arthur. It's a shame. It does work with the deck though. Like Xenia overrides everything by saying like, oh, everything has offspring, so that's, but that means that everything else is for you to double down or enter the battlefield effects by paying 2. But Arthur, well, rides on that, so this is one of those rare cases where both commanders kind of work right off the box with the entire deck, or mostly. But Arthur looks nice. I love the concept, love the art, love everything, but I will either make him a little bit cheaper, like, I don't know, one blue, 1 red, 1 white, or just 1 blue, 1 red, 1 white. Well, maybe it's too cheap, maybe. But maybe make it cheaper here, or keep this cost but remove when Arthur and another creature attack, or give it indestructible, or like if it attacks with another creature it gets indestructible or something. It's not really worth it. And then you have the Planeswalker in foil that is a converted Planeswalker. In this case, it's Elspeth, Sun's Champion. So for 4 and 2 white, you get a 4 loyalty Planeswalker that says +1, create 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. That's why you have soldiers. But couldn't they do like a token with mice or something? I understand that they are mice token and that's a mouse token, right, and rat tokens, and maybe that's why they didn't want to do it. But come on. -3, destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, which works with this deck because of the offspring and so on. And -7, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +2/+2 and have flying, which is just nice, I guess. So you're seeing where the deck is going. Let's just go over it kind of fast enough. So this is one of those cards that is like here, but it's like I can remove this one. Nothing that crazy because it doesn't have enter the battlefield effects. It's not that strong. Like it just has first strike, and then if you pay 3 and 2 white, like this card is not doing anything here, in my opinion. So it's funny that they put it here. Like it has Jalzal Goldmane. Is like I don't care, thank you. So Marshall Coop, not bad. Again, one of the reasons why you have white soldier tokens. Storm of Souls. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit. So allocate your cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. This looks actually crazier than it is, mostly because, you know, you're like, oh, we're going to have a bunch of tokens. They die. If they die, they don't go to the graveyard, son. They disappear. So this thing doesn't trigger as crazy as you may think. So again, Selfless Spirit is one of those things that, you know, you get indestructible. It's like, okay, I guess like this is kind of useful for this deck. Very useful for poor Arthur here. But, you know, Jack Rabbit, when Jack Rabbit attacks, create a number of 1/1 creatures. Like this is okay. If you have Offspring, it's okay, but you know you can pay X for your Offspring. So Jack Rabbit is cool, but not in the theme. You know what I mean? Like it feels like this happens a lot with a raccoon. Yes, this is a commander PreCon, and therefore it's like a basic thing ish, and therefore they don't go full crazy in it. Version control have +1/+1, have vigilance, and so on. Like, but this is why we have the Phyrexian token, by the way. But it feels, you know, it feels weird. You know what I mean? It feels weird that it's like, why doesn't everything have enter the battlefield effects? Just give me enter the battlefield effects, or just ongoing effects. Like, why not? Like, for example, this one doesn't fit thematically at all, but it makes sense when it enters. Mechanically, it fits. When it enters, create a 3/3 colorless Phyrexian Golem artifact creature token. So it gives you 2 for if you pay 2 more. So that's not bad. And golems you control have first strike. That's not bad. When it enters the battlefield, now they printed a bunch of cards, and they removed the enter the battlefield, and they just put like enters, and I'm not that crazy about it, to be honest. Like, it feels incomplete. And I know that, you know, it's world economy and so on, but what is this? Like, Magic is pretty, you know, it's very word economic. It's not like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Loyal Warhound, when it enters the battlefield, if your opponent controls more lands than you search 1, so you get another 1 for 2. And they are kind of cheap. This is the type of card that you want to put here if you want to adjust this deck a little bit. All the type of cards you need to put here are cheap, enter the battlefield effect cards, and you get double. Or at least, you know, just have cards with ongoing effects, like other creatures get +1/+1. So you get a copy of it, so you get +2/+2. It's kind of the play here, right? Like Luminous Broodmoth is for 2 and 2 white. Flying whenever a creature you control without flying dies, redirect the battlefield under its owner's control with a flying counter on it, which is actually pretty nice. And it can turn on you if you're using it in another deck, not in this one because you don't have like mind control or anything like that, but it's very good. This is the type of card that you want, and you don't want to have a copy, but you can have a copy just to protect yourself in case they remove it. Sun Titan is just here because it's a white deck with an Elspeth card, so of course it has to have Sun Titan. But in defense of Sun Titan, yes, it has an enter the battlefield effect, so you may return target permanent card with mana about 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, so you can get 2, but it's kind of an expensive card. Again, the cool thing about the commander is that you don't need to do it for everything. Like it's not like the Offspring cost is mandatory, is useful. So this is a Jeskai deck where you can just, you know, if you pay 2 more, you get the sauce. You get the sauce, and you get a bunch of clones. Now, again, I was just speeding up a little bit, and I'm going to see all the cards one by one. But like speeding up a little bit, basically here, the trick, right, is that at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary. The token gains haste. So if you equip this to see, well, no, I was about to say if you equip this to Cinia, it can go very crazy, very fast. It doesn't. But actually, Helm of the Host, I don't know. Are we getting anything from Helm of the Host in this deck? I don't think so. Now, the mana base, same logic. Everything follows the same mana base logic. So you have like the Doctor Who lands, the Tango lands, right? 2 or fewer, or 2 or more, as the professor calls them. Exotic Orchard, the classic mana base. So you have a very decent mana base, and you need it because this deck needs that thing. And then you have some cards that, the cards on the back are like the cards that are just kind of fit and are not very crazy. But Spirited Companion, you can draw 2 cards and have 2 creatures because you get another copy, right? Which is not that bad. You're getting 1 life or draw a card. These are not the crazy cards, but they kind of give you the fuel that you need because they have enter the battlefield effects. Now, you can put this deck into hyperdrive by, just changing a lot of things. Like, for example, Tetsuko Omezawa Fugitive in this deck is just mean, because if you have a bunch of 1/1 tokens or the spirits from this card, Tetsuko Omezawa is just crazy, right? Like, creatures you control with power 1, power of toughness 1 or less can be blocked. So you're going to be swinging with the babies, which is great. It's going to be a Muppet Babies episode. So Arcane Signet, Borrow Signet, the usual, right? Just the classic Secret Mender. Sadly, well, this is an artifact creature, so it actually has offspring. You can have an offspring, the offspring of an artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you're into life. When it leaves, draw a card. So you can do that twice for 5. So again, it's not the cheapest thing ever, but having a copy of a card for 2 more is not bad. So if you're going to use this deck, it's pretty good right off the box. Like, this is why people are saying that this is the best deck right off the box. Like, if you're going to use this deck, you just need a few adjustments. One of them is removing the secondary commander, because the poor guy is doing nothing there. But the whole story with that deck, with this deck, with Xenia, is remove everything that's very expensive, remove everything that doesn't have an enters the battlefield effect or an ongoing effect that is beneficial for you, and just fill it with enter the battlefield effects and ongoing effects. Like, all the creatures you control have +1/+1 and shit like that. Why? Because if you pay 2 more, which is not that crazy, the more you move into the game, you start to having double the value for everything you do. Double the value, double the value, double the value, right? And that's the whole game. And the more babies you have, the more powerful gets Xenia, actually. So you start swinging with Xenia, because that's the thing. You get enter the battlefield effects, and then it's like, oh, but how do I win? Well, with the enter the battlefield effects, you actually get to do a lot of crazy things. But with Xenia getting stronger and stronger, you can just swing at people by flying, swing at people by flying. So it's not that bad, actually, right? You actually need to time it pretty well with your cards, because if you don't have Xenia or you don't have enough mana to play the cards and double them, you really have to time which cards are you using when, because sometimes you want to double some and not others, right? So, basic strategy, nothing too crazy. This is a very good deck, but maybe too much of a straightforward deck. Let's see. Then Peace Offering, the Group Hog deck. So Group Hog +1/+1 counter. So I like this. I don't like this that much. But is Mrs. Bumbleflower or Miss Bumbleflower. So Miss Bumbleflower is win friends and influence players with Miss Bumbleflower, who encourages the defensive, diplomatic approach over big attacks. Give special perks to your new allies while bundling up 1/+1/+1 counters, and watch the table crumble under your kindness. So this is the type of thing that I really like. So different decks with weird ideas or weird strategies. So what does it... Well, I mean, Group Hog is not new, but you know what I mean. More bunny, more problems. Yep. Now, the fun thing is that I remember when seeing the commanders, and I saw there was a deck with a bunny. I mean, if I had to bet, I would bet everything on my name that the offspring deck will be the bunny one, which, yeah, maybe it's cliche, because it is. But, okay, so deck box. Every time it's like less and less important. It's just like, okay, deck box, there you go. Dividers, counters, deck, insert, is Bumbleflower. So build up your defenses with +1/+1 counters while everyone is arguing over who's your real best friend and pouring over their many resources, all courtesy of you. This is a deck that only works in Commander. This is a deck that only works under the social conventions of Commander. And it has alternate win conditions as well. Miss Bumbleflower, graceful, gracious, and generous. Miss Bumbleflower is the owner and proprietor of the three cities most popular inn, and its signature pot of never-ending stew. This utterly massive cauldron sits in the heart of at all times, and blah, 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 right? So you can read it if you want. It has some story, some lore. I love it, actually. I'm skipping over it because, you're here for the game, not for the lore. If you're here for the lore, one of these days I will make a channel like the Magic Historian, just about lore, which is just me with a stupid voice reading cards and lore snippets from Magic the Gathering, and going like, oh, no, Vraska, we're supposed to be together. Who is Vraska? Stabs Jace, right? So, Storm Splitter. Oh, nice. For 3 and 1 red, is a Otter Wizard. With haste, is a 1/4, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token that's a copy of Storm Splitter. Exile that token at the beginning of your next end step. So it has haste, so not bad, not crazy. And Strike Force. Flying, double strike, and vigilance. Yeah, all that for 2 and 1 white. Show this to a Magic player like 20 years ago, and they will be like, sorry, what? Now, let's play the token game. I mean, you know what type of deck it is. It's a group hug deck, so nothing is going to be too crazy here, but I always love that the tokens are like, it's a different type of cardboard. It's like, also smells different. And you're like, who smells their cards? You do it too. Come on, and don't pretend like everyone smells their cards and their new books, right? Or it's just me. So let's see the tokens, okay? Let's try to guess. So Elephant token, I can bet you, I mean, I know because I already played with the deck, but let's try to guess which card that is very popular in Commander in the white color requires you to have an Elephant token. Spoilers, the Elephant token is not going to be for you. Squid, that has Island Walk. Steelboard Champion, not bad. A Mouse Soldier, Squid, Rabbit, Octopus, Treasure, Cat, Rabbit, Fish. The fish token is actually beautiful. Bird, Fish, Bird, Shark, Sharkwig, Elemental, which, yeah, sure, that's an Elemental. Why not? They picked the Elemental that looked more like an animal. Like, yeah, it looks like a goat. Go with that one. And it's a Chimera, but whatever. Shark, Elemental, Cat, and Poison Counter. Pam, pam, pam. And also Rabbit. But Poison Counter on a group hug deck. And that's one of the most fascinating things in this deck. Now, the weird thing, actually, and this is like minor pet peeve, but I will have, like, at least, normally the poison decks from Phyrexial will be one, had like 4 of this in the back of the other cards because you give 1 to each player. So it's kind of weird that they only included 1, but whatever. It's not the main strategy of the deck, but it gives some ideas. So let's see the commander. Miss Bumbleflower. For 1 green, 1 white, and 1 blue. Is a Rabbit Citizen. It's a 1/5 and has the Vigilance. Whenever you cast a spell, target opponent draws a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It gains flying until the end of turn. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, you draw 2 cards. So whenever you cast a spell, your opponent draws a card. So you really want to cast more than 2, because the first time your opponent draws a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, it gains flying. But if the second time, you draw 2 cards. So you really have to be like, who wants cards? And this is a very dangerous thing, because giving a +1/+1 and flying till the end of turn to one of your creatures is not that crazy. Like, plus it's target creature. You can give it to an opponent. So, which is kind of actually the play here. Like, give +1/+1 and flying to an opponent and be like, yo, you want a card and you want a +1/+1 and flying, and just, remove them from your path. And it just has Vigilance, which is interesting because, I mean, you can't swing with her. Because you can give +1/+1 to her and flying. So, flying with Vigilance, you hit and you come back, kind of thing. But it's actually pretty flexible. But if you do the second time, then you draw 2 cards. So if you keep insisting, you get 2 cards, but someone got another card. And giving cards is very powerful. So not much to say here. You will see how the deck plays. Now, the secondary commander is interesting, Mr. Foxglove, which is actually referred to in the insert for Miss Bumbleflower. If you don't push the video back, pause it, it's you have a reference to Mr. Foxglove at the end of the text. For 2, 1 green, 1 white, 1 blue is a 3/5 Fox Rogue. It has lifelink, and whenever Mr. Foxglove attacks, draw cards equal to the number of cards in defending player's hand, minus the number of cards in your hand. If you didn't draw cards this way, you may put a creature card from your hand into the battlefield. So, Mr. Foxglove, it's a valid commander, but a very weird commander. So, let me put it this way. As I said multiple times in this channel, I like weird decks. Weird as in not just the basic, like +1/+1, type all, attacking, whatever. So, Miss Bumbleflower is an interesting commander because you have to go like, cast a spell, draw a card, +1/+1, blah, blah. It's interesting. It's very political, if anything, and it has some tactics to it. But Mr. Foxglove, it's very interesting and chaotic, which is weird why it has those colors. Like there is no red in there, but like whenever Mr. Foxglove attacks, you draw cards equal to the number of cards in defending player's hand minus the number of cards in your hand. So if we're playing like you and me, right? You have 5 cards in your hand. I have 2. So I draw 3 cards, which is actually freaking crazy. Now, okay, let's be honest. Mr. Foxglove is not that crazy. Like, it has lifelink, so you gain life, but it doesn't have like indestructible or haste or flying or anything. Like, actually, this is one of the best combinations. If you give Mr. Foxglove +1/+1 and flying, you can go over a lot of things. And therefore triggers. Now, it says attacks. It doesn't need to connect, actually. So that's not bad. But you don't want it to die if he's your main commander, right? If you're using him as your main commander. Now, the interesting thing is that if you didn't draw cards this way, you may put a creature card from your hand to the battlefield. So if you have more cards than anyone else, you can just drop a big-ass guy. And, you have green, white, and blue. So you have the most expensive, inefficient price of cards in here. So, is a completely different way of playing the deck. This deck kind of leans into, more Bumbleflower than Foxglove, but you can actually build around Foxglove, and it's kind of crazy. I actually like the idea of Foxglove a lot because it's, it kind of matches the drawing. It's like this Zorro-like character, which, is a fox, so it's a Zorro. Right, that's the joke. But it's very suave, as you say in English instead of suave. It's very suave because it's like, well, you attack, I get cards, but if I can get cards, I'm just going to get some backup, and it's like, boom, you drop it, right? So it's a win-win situation as long as you keep Mr. Foxglove, alive. So it can be also Robin Hood, but I guess they went with Zorro because Zorro means fox. So, and then you have Tamiyo, Field Researcher, and Tamiyo becomes a bunny. In case it's not obvious, well, let me just double check. No, it's not the case. I was about to say, in case it's not obvious, they become the same animals the commander's like, no, they're not. They don't. Tamiyo becomes a bunny, and Tamiyo Field Researcher for 1 green, 1 white, and 1 blue is a 4 loyalty plus walker. The +1 is just choose up to 2 target creatures until your next turn, whenever either of those creatures deal combat damage, you draw a card, which is, it fits a lot with the deck, with both commanders. And the -2, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. They don't untap during their controller's next untap step, which, it's okay. And then -7, draw 3 cards. You get an emblem with, you may cast spells from your cast without paying their mana cost, which is crazy, right? And you start with 4, so you're really 4, 5, 6, 7. Like the moment you hit 7, you're gonna go ultimate, because the moment you have that emblem, no one can remove it from you, and you just cast everything for free, baby. So yeah, that's it's an interesting combination that we have here. Now the entire deck this is the most interesting one to look at because it's all over the place. I say, like enchant opponent, beginning of enchant opponent's ends point, you and that player each draw a card, which is great. And then when you attack enchanted opponent or a planeswalker they control, or when they attack you, sacrifice Tenuous Truth. So, it's literally a pact don't attack me, I don't attack you, we both get cards, yahoo, you know, kind of thing. Like, I love that. Lot of the third part. Actually, this deck says in the box, group hug +1/+1 counters, and it's like, yes, because, you know, Miss Bumbleflower has the +1/+1 thing, but it's actually more about drawing cards is the main thing in half of the cards at least, which is, you know, very good value. Stillborn Champion, Offspring, which, you know, create a 1/1 copy of it, and then Vigilance. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, which not bad. Then with Bunnies, which is a very interesting card, Tempting Offer, draw a card and create a 1/1 White Rabbit creature token. Then each opponent may draw a card and create a 1/1 Rabbit creature token. For each opponent who does, you draw a card and you create a 1/1 Rabbit creature token. So you create, and then if everyone creates, you also create, right? So this is type of group hug thing. That's like, I can give you stuff, but I get stuff. And then they use this mechanic a lot in this deck, which is the gift mechanic, right? Gift an extra turn. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, they take an extra turn after this one. And you create a 4/4 Bluebear creature tokens. Sorry, you create 4 2/2 Bluebear creature tokens with flying. If the gift was promised, all permanents you control phase out, and until your next turn, your life total can change and you gain protection from everything. Which is basically the first protection, a kind of expensive first protection that gives you more cards, more defenses, but phases everything out. So you're like, okay, so I'm out. Right? This card actually used it a couple of times. Is hilariously stupid how this plays in Magic, and this card is perfect for this type of deck because you use it. You can not gift someone, but like there's always one player. If you're playing this deck, there's always one player that is dominating the game, right? It's more aggressive. So you play Burst Protection, which is, you know, if someone is attacking you and you're like, it's like the first protection, but not really. You create 4 birds, which are just there, you know, it's a thing. But then you just say, okay, so if I give you 2 turns, will you save my ass? It's like, sure, you disappear from the game. And then the other player plays twice. And, you know, if they are a person of word, which is technically how this goes, you know, you get a paladin for you, which is interesting. I like this type of card. It's very unorthodox. It's, you know, what they should be instead of just vertical power scaling. Sunscorched Regent, Promise of Loyalty. This one, I have it in the Planeswalker deck because why not? All these cards are like, please don't attack me, right? Mangala the Diplomat is that card. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you on a Planeswalker you control, you draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell this turn, you draw a card. So it's just draw engine, destroy everything that is not a giant. So and then you call the giant it. Sphinx of Enlightenment, which is funny because see all the white, blue, all the green, like there's only one creature they wanted to feature here, like the Sphinx of Enlightenment for 4 and 2 blue, which you know, target opponent draws a card and you draw 3 cards. It's okay, it fits the theme. It's kind of too expensive for this deck, to be honest, but whatever. Now, Forgotten Ancient. Now, this card, I want to talk about this card. Bloodroot. Why is it Arkansas and this is why is it Kansas and this is Arkansas? America, explain. Bloodroot. Well, shouldn't it be Bloodroot or Blood Rot? No, it's Bloodroot. Doesn't make any sense. So the Bloodroot Apothecary for 2 and 1 green is the weirdest card ever, and I'm in love with it. Even though, just because it's weird, I don't like it because I don't like playing with Toxic. I have said this in multiple videos. I don't like playing with Toxic in Commander. I think it's a win condition, I guess, but it feels like to be honest, I prefer losing against Tassa's Oracle than losing against Toxic counters because yeah. But basically, this little bad boy here has Toxic 2, which, you know, for some cosmic reason. And then when Bloodroot Apothecary enters, you and target opponent each create a treasure token, which Okay. And then whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-creature token, that player gets 2 poison counters. So if for some cosmic reason you are playing against decks that use treasure tokens, my god, like, you're going to become the target, and Blue Road Apothecary is going to become the target. So you better protect this card by all means, because if they sacrifice 5 treasure tokens, they are dead, right? So that's kind of the play that you want here. That's the push. That's the thing, right? And obviously, I mean, this card sounds better than what it is because they are going to remove it from the board. When they remove it from the board, you likely don't have anything else to do toxic damage. So, but give it flying, or give it indestructible or something. Protect it at all costs, and this thing is going to create mayhem. But again, that's a theory. No, but again, like, this will be crazy if you're playing against decks that use a lot of treasure tokens. You basically cut their path right there, like crazy. It's crazy, believe me. But if they are not, then this card is just okay. Like, then this card is just cool because you give a treasure to a person and you just look at them like, because it's a poison treat. It's exactly this. Because, if they sacrifice it, they get two poison counters. So, sadly, there is not a lot of proliferate here, but at least this card can go into other decks, and it's freaking crazy. So, I'm very happy. Like, I like this type of design. It's an orthodox design. It's weird design. Horizontal power scaling. When Communal Brew enters the battlefield, any number of target opponents each draw a card. Put an ingredient counter on Communal Brewing, then put an ingredient counter on it for each card drawn this way. Whenever you cast a creature spell, the creature enters with X, +1/+1, because of Communal Brewing. So this type of thing is also cool because you're forcing people's hands. You have a Hydra here, which, whenever a player casts a spell, this is group hug because it depends on other people, but it's not really group hug. And Rites of Flourishing, at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card, which is great. Each player may play an additional land on each of their turns, which is crazy. Everybody wins. Then you better have something to, what was the Planeswalker that Narset, I think, that said that players can draw more than 1 card per turn? Or if you have this and Narset, well, that's it. You have like a very good luck in there. Tempt with Discovery, so there is that. Kalonian Hydra, so they're going with the Hydras here because why not? Because of +1/+1 counters. Because you see, you have a lot of +1/+1 counters. It doesn't feel like it should be the topic of the deck, but it is, which is weird, or the theme of the deck. The Girapur Ore, or Girapur, I think it's Gira. So each player may play an additional land on each of their turns. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in their hand, that player draws 3 cards. Psychosis Crawler, and then good old mana base. Nothing too crazy. And then in terms of blue creatures, then we get some cheaper blue creatures. Like Trisky Decaphile is okay for you to have no maximum hand size, because if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. It's okay. Like if you play, like it's no one's business. You draw cards, and you're like, the beginning of your upkeep, you have 13 cards. You can win with Trisky Decaphile in this deck, but it's not like the main thing. Octomancer is pretty cool, and it's another proof of this horizontal design that I like a lot. Why? You gift an octopus. You may promise an opponent a gift as you cast this spell. If you do, when it enters, they create a 8/8 blue octopus creature token, which is very good. So for politics, this is great, because it says at the beginning of each end step, create a token that's a copy of target creature token that entered the battlefield this turn. So it can either enter as an Octomancer, it's kind of expensive for what it is, but if you go full politics, you actually get an octopus as well. And you and your ally have an 8/8, which is pretty cool. And then it keeps copying tokens, which, it's a thing here. Although this also kind of fits in the... Well, it doesn't because it's green. but I wish it wasn't because it will fit into the Zinnia deck perfectly. 20 Toad. They love this word size. Your maximum hand size is 20. Whenever you attack, blah, 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 if there are 20, whenever 20 Toad attacks, you win the game if there are 20 or more counters on it, or you have 20 or more cards in hand. So this deck, as you can see, has a lot of alternate win conditions. And Toxic is also there as a way of killing people, I guess. But you have a lot of alternate win conditions in there that are just like, oh yeah, I'm chilling. And just, if you have X amount of cards or you have X amount of counters, you win the game. And since you're just chilling and, promising stuff to people, you may actually win by, not doing that much. Selvala is here as well. Each player might draw a card, and each player who drew a card this way gains 1 life, which is like, okay. Coveted Jewel, draw 3 cards, add 3 mana of any color. Whenever one or more creatures an opponent control attack, you and your unblock, the player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. Untap it. So, interesting as well, another way of doing politics. Generous Gift, there you go, but the Bloomburrow version, which is interesting. Swords to Plowshares, the Bloomburrow version. I love it that they have Bloomburrow versions for all the classics, but they don't have tokens for some of Soldier and stuff like that. Bird, and then an offer you can refuse, which is actually pretty cool. Wizard class, Cultivate, and then you can actually go wild and add some other alternate winning conditions. And actually, Tassa's Oracle kind of fits here. Not 100%, but it kind of fits. No maximum hand size. That's kind of the whole ordeal here. I feel like they give you Sweetfoot Boots. Lightning Greaves will be better, of course, as is always the case, and give it to Mr. Fox. That's kind of the play that you should do here. So overall, this deck is very interesting, but it's not an easy deck to play with because it has like 20 ways of winning. And everything is at the same time, right? And you're like, I can win with this, I can win with that. And it's like, some people will hate this deck with all their might because it's not really a deck that plays Magic the Gathering, you know what I mean? Like, it feels a lot like you're playing a different game and people are playing Magic the Gathering. Like you are just there, like, promising stuff and giving stuff to people. You're like a pimp in the middle of the game, like, oh, yeah, grab a card. Grab a card, but don't touch me. Grab a card, but don't touch me. Hey, when an octopus, don't touch me. And you're just like there in the middle. And it actually gives you a lot of flexibility because you can be friends with the entire table. You can be friends with one big player that is just having the advantage. You can go any way you want, and you can win in multiple ways as well, with Triscat Decaphile or 20 Toad, so stuff like that, right? So it's actually, I like it, but it's not an easy deck to play with, and people will either love you or hate your guts because there is no middle ground here. Because this deck is just like that. It's that type of deck. So, that's my advice to you, I guess. Get it under your own responsibility. And then last but not least, Squirreled Away. Some people love it, some people hate it. Black and green, Horde tokens, squirrels. And it just says squirrels because that's the meme of a squirrels. So Hazel of the Root Bloom. Hazel leads a shadow faction of nature worshippers and will go to any length to preserve balance for her community, right? And in this case, you accumulate tokens and just go boom, right? It says it here, right? Horde tokens and then squirrels. So the squirrels part just feels like, the meme of this deck is nuts. Whoever you are at Wizards of the Coast, I just want you to know that I appreciate you. Like, whoever is the person that writes those phrases, I appreciate you. Someone out there, in this case me, just every time I buy a new Commander deck, one of the things that gets me the most excited about is actually like, what's going to be the pawn for this one? Like, not joking. So whoever you are, thank you. This one suffered, as you can see. The Boosterino, and then the deck, the counters, which I think is the same counters for all of them. Like they're not even trying. Like it's a +1/+1 deck, you get the same. It's a poison deck, you get the same. Like they don't care. They don't care anymore. It's just like Hazel of the Root Bloom. Squirrels just want to have fun. Oh yeah, squirrels just want to have fun. Whoa, whoa. With Hazel's ability to use all of your assorted tokens to add mana, you can cast more and bigger spells to stay ahead of the competition. Which is interesting because you will see the way that this deck plays is what I assumed that the Gruul deck was, like the Bellow one. The Cash Master. Or Cash, I guess Cash. The Cash Master, Hazel's name is one spoken only in whispers amongst the populace of Bloomburrow, a threat to lord over the heads of misbehaving children. She is the enigmatic I can't do it seriously. She is the enigmatic leader of the Belladonna, a resistance faction both vicious and covert in their bid to reclaim the world of nature, or the world for nature, and so on. You can read it if you want. The Calamity Beast of Spring. I actually like the design of this squirrel a lot. So let's see. Put this thing here. Well, let's open this thing. Let's recycle this first. Let's open this thing first. Liliana and Xenia, Valley's voice. She's kind of a shame because, like, when you had the normal commander and you pull this one, you're like, cool, I can swap it. But now it's just like, actually, that one is better because that one is foil. This one is not. So, bam, 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 bam. But hey, people like this commander, so at least that. And Huskbuster Swarm. In foil, not bad. Again, you don't buy the commander decks for the sample, for the sample booster, which is not a sample. It's like, think of it as, you know, the first one is free. Remember that boosters are basically gambling. So that's kind of the play here, is like, the first one is free. Look at the cool treatments that you can get for cards for your commander deck. Right? So don't fall for it. Be smarter. Buy singles. Or just a PreCon if you like the PreCon, right? So let's see the tokens. So Squirrel. Makes sense. Treasure. Squirrel. Treasure. Squirrel. Food. Nice. Eldrazi. Okay. Was not expecting that. Clue. Pest, Shapeshifter, Spider, Blood, Human Soldier. Come on, guys, we're in Bloomburrow. Wolf, Rat, Raccoon, Goat, and Wolf. So you can tell where this is going. Squirrels, I guess. Not as many squirrels as you imagine, right? Like, not that, like, we have 20 tokens or 10 double-sided and not that many squirrels. So Hazel of the Root Bloom. Very nice looking card, I have to say. Like, leading the horde here. For 2, 1 black and 1 green is a 3/5 that says, tap it, tap it, pay 2 life, tap X on tap tokens you control, add X mana in any combination of colors. At the beginning of your end step, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. If that token is a squirrel, instead create 2 tokens that are copies of it. So if you pay, everything generates mana, which is crazy. If you don't, at least at the end of your in the end of your turn, you create a token that's a copy of one of your tokens. But if it's a squirrel, it multiplies by 2. So you see where this is going, right? Either you're supposed to go either by numbers, a lot of squirrels, or either by big things because you have a lot of mana to summon big things. But we're going to see those big things in a second. The Odd Acorn Gang, this is the secondary commander, is an interesting one because for 3, 1 black and 1 green is a 5/5 squirrel warrior. And it has menace, trample, and reach. and squirrels you control have tap. Target squirrel gets +2/+2 and gains trample until the end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is interesting. You will see the rest of the deck in a second. But remember that this one multiplies squirrels, doesn't give you squirrels. And this one, whenever one or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. This also relies on squirrels, but doesn't give you squirrels. The squirrels get an effect to just, bump other creatures, particularly other squirrel. Maybe this one, right? It has menace, trample, and reach. So if you just outgrow it with a bunch of squirrels, it can get very crazy very fast. So both of them rely a lot on having squirrels. And this is why the deck is going to be crazy when you look at it, because, they're like squirrels, squirrels, squirrels. We will see in a second. And lastly, the commander is Garruk. Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. And Garruk is a bear, I think. Although I will always think about Garruk as a gorilla, I think, but I think bear fits more the tone, I guess. So, for 4, 1 black, 1 green, is a 5 loyalty planeswalker with a 0 loyalty ability that says create 2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens with, when this creature dies, put a loyalty counter on each Garruk you control. And -3, destroy target creature, draw a card, and -6, you get an emblem with creatures you control get +3/+3 and have trample. So it's very good for squirrels, but you do need a bunch of wolves to get there, so we'll see it in a second. So let's see the deck. Remember, we need squirrels like we need water. Let's see. When enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 black rat creature tokens for a number of opponents you have. Sadly, squirrels are cousins of rats, but they don't count for what we want. So, okay, when this is a rat berserker, when it enters, you get a food token. Okay, this is a bat, so they are all cousins, but we want squirrels, nothing else. So, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get a blood token. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter. So, there is a very good looping here. This card is actually pretty good. Kind of expensive, but pretty good. Swarmyard Massacre for 3 and 2 black. You create 2 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens. Then each creature that isn't an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel gets -1/-1 until the end of turn for each creature you control that's an insect, rat, spider, or squirrel. So not bad, but for 5 gives you 2 squirrels and then basically nerfs everything that is not, insect, rat, spider, or squirrel, which is what this deck is all about. So interesting, but not that level of crazy. I mean, with your commanders, you can multiply those squirrels, so that's not bad. But you only get 2 so far, so let's see. Food token, well, it's a squirrel, so you can multiply it because you need to multiply a token, but it's a squirrel. Enters the battlefield, you create a goat. This is why we have a goat. You know how this card works. Sowing half. If that creature dies this way, its controller creates 2 tokens that are copies of that creature, except their power is half of the creature. So round up each time. So you can actually use this against your own cards to have multiple squirrels, believe it or not. So not bad. Let's see. Ogre Slumlord, rats. So, I mean, to be fair, there are not that many squirrel cards. In Modern Horizons 2, we got a bunch of squirrel cards, but you will expect that the play with squirrels was stronger, I guess. So your creatures, they can be regenerated. Draw a card for each creature destroyed this way, cycling, and when you cycle, everyone gets -2/-2. You get the Gourmand's Talent. You create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token. You may choose the same mode more than once. So you can get 3 squirrels just here, so not bad. Again, it's not that it's your only ability or your only play here to create squirrels, but the deck really, even in the box, says squirrels. So, it's like, give me more. Whenever a squirrel, scurry of squirrels, my god, my tongue is just going crazy right now. Deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It has myriad. So, not bad. Not squirrels. Spiders. Enter create 4 green squirrel creature tokens, and squirrels get +1/+1. So this is amazing for this deck. Another squirrel. Again, I'm just showing you these in this order. Like we can just go faster because that's kind of what I want to get at with this deck. Remember how this deck is played? Like, you see how the black spells are kind of expensive. They're not. They get from less expensive to super expensive, but like they're sorcery. It's not like you're going to swing like the Ogre Slumlord is is the most expensive black card in this part of the deck, and is a 3/3 and just gives you stuff. So you pay in 2 life, which is cool in Commander, to tap X untap tokens you control and give you X mana. Remember, you need those tokens, and you first have to play stuff to get tokens because your commander doesn't generate the tokens. It can multiply the token, or it can do a copy of a token that you control. And if it's a squirrel, it's double, but it doesn't generate tokens. And then you get swayed by the whole, I can get so much mana. It's like, yeah, to do this, which is cool, but like the deck is kind of expensive in terms of mana value, but it feels like this ability should be somewhere mixed with that commander, because like the deck is expensive, but it's not that expensive. And you have Chatterfang is here. Also, everyone salute Chatterfang. If one or more tokens will be created under your control, those tokens plus that many squirrels are created. So Chatterfang is the Fang. Like, this is what you want. This is what you need in this deck. The moment Chatterfang enters, everything just starts moving, right? But, the expensive stuff is cool, but you're not going, you know what I mean? Like the mana base, right? You have a bunch of good mana base. The mana base for all the decks is more or less the same, right? Where ways. Gilded Goose, cool. Food, okay. Like, by the way, yes, you can copy food tokens and treasure tokens, right? With your commander, and you can tap food tokens for mana. So that's why you have a bunch of things here that give you mana. But knowing that your commander is just an engine for squirrels, and yes, you can tap those squirrels for mana to get more squirrels, I guess, because the whole play here, as you can see, is that she's like a religious sect kind of thing, and just gathering more people, or squirrels in this case, and Cheater's Peter. Like, again, you have the stuff, you have the power, but you don't have quite the right thing. You create tokens with everything, and you're like, well, this is expensive, but I have my tokens. Like, do you though? Because you need the Sword of the Squeak, which is amazing. You need to have more tokens, and I feel that this thing doesn't give you enough tokens. So most of the upgrades that I will do to this deck is remove a couple of stupid spells that are here that is like, okay, because some of them are like, oh, you create human tokens. It's like, okay, like, I don't need, if it's not a squirrel, so step number 1 for this deck, every squirrel card that is not here, add it. Like, no brainer, because it has a storm. Chatterstorm is the thing that you want. Do it, then multiply squirrels. Let's go. Tap everything for mana, and then add big, heavy hitting things for you to be able to use that mana that you have, because this deck doesn't feel that expensive. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't have that much card draw either, right? So it's not like, oh well, but you have a bunch of mana, but you can't. And then you have like the mana base. Like, you have a bunch of mana, but you can cast multiple smaller things. You don't need to cast like big things. It's like, yes, I would second that if you had a lot of card draw, which you don't have, right? Like, with the 2 commanders here, and that's kind of the problem, is that this one gives you mana, which is amazing for all your tokens, and tokens can be anything. It can be food tokens, it can be creature tokens, it can be anything. And then the second one just copies a token, which is great. So if it's a treasure token, you get another one. If it's a food token, you get another one, which in turn, next turn, will give you more mana in exchange for 2 life. But hey, it's just life, right? So And if it's squirrels, you get 2, right? So that's great. So the whole play here is squirrels, squirrels, squirrels. You get more squirrels. If there are squirrel cards that are not here, add them, remove everything else. But then you're going to be stuck with a bunch of tokens and mana for no good reason. Like, I don't feel that there is like, Eldrazi's here, like a 10-10 that you need the mana for and go like boom, right? Like, this deck feels like it could use some Eldrazi's. Like, ironically, the squirrel, druid, leader, defender of nature thing feels like the best gate for Eldrazi's. Like, it's just a cult leader for Eldrazi's, and it's just like, yeah, let's pray for the Eldrazi's and just summon big ass Eldrazi's with all the squirrel tokens that you're tapping. Otherwise, and for the secondary commander, it's a very interesting idea, but menace, trample, and reach, which is pretty crazy because 3 squirrels, each of them does a different thing, I guess. This is pretty good. But then squirrels you control give target squirrel +2/+2 and gains trample at the end of turn. So you can give that to one of the named squirrels or to another token squirrel. That's great. And whenever one or more squirrels you control deal combat damage to player, draw a card. So you do get a draw engine here, but not crazy because it's one or more squirrels. So what you want to do is have a bunch of squirrels, tap all of them to give +2/+2 to this guy because it has menace, trample, and reach, and just swing with that big commander damage and goes kaboom. But that's a completely different deck from this. They do play together nice, but it's a completely different deck. Not deck, but like feeling. The deck is kind of in the middle. It doesn't have all the squirrel cards that it could have, which is a shame, and it doesn't have all the heavy hitters that I will expect, which is stupid because, give me the heavy hitters. Like, why are you not giving me the heavy hitters? Come on. Now, let's talk about decks and comparison and finish the video around 2 hours. Yay! So, welcome to the Magic the Gathering podcast. So, Bello, Zinnia, Miss Bumbleflower, and Hazel of the Root Pool. So, in terms of which deck is the most powerful right off the box, my order will be trying to be as impartial as possible, okay? Like, impartial. Trying, because no, you can't be. So, number 1, these 2 are tied. Number 2 and number 3. These 2 are okay. Like, if you really push for me, I guess it will be something like this. If you really want an absolute order, like, I feel like this is the most powerful deck right off the box because of multiple reasons. It works. The co-commander, sadly, my dear Arthur, is kind of trash, but the main commander is good enough. But like, we're talking about them as they are, and you can upgrade them. Sure, if you're going to upgrade them, likely you're going to remove all the co-commanders except for Mr. Foxglove, and the old Acorn gang. So like, likely you're going to remove Arthur and maybe Wildseer, maybe can stay. I don't know, but Zinnia just, this deck just works. It's intimidating. It just works. Hazel kind of works. Bello kind of works, but less, because it's very expensive without the mana. And here you have a lot of mana, and I don't feel like you have the engines enough for it. So that's why I kind of tied them, because they are like on the same boat kind of thing. Like, okay, this one kind of has the mana engine, but doesn't have enough squirrels or heavy hitters to complete its mission. And this one is just very expensive, and it doesn't feel like it's complete. And this one is not like it is the less powerful, but it is the weirder one to use. And if you are like me, and sometimes you play 1v1 commander with a friend, which is a thing, don't hate me, this deck is useless, because this deck is really made for multiplayer commanders. So you have multiple types of group hug decks, and this one is not the type of please don't touch me. Like, this deck has some please don't touch me cards, but this deck is very straightforward with what it wants, which is Yeah, let's go. I give you +1/+1s. I give you a creature. You want an octopus? Heck, have an octopus, but hey, don't hit me, haha, right? And if you're playing 1v1, which again is not what these decks are designed for, right? The commander is for 4 people or more, right? Like, come on, let's be honest. But just saying, in this deck is different. It's not like the other group hug decks that are full of cards like propaganda and so on, that you can actually play 1v1 and make the other person miserable because they can hit you, because they have to pay like 10 mana every time they have to attack you and stuff like that. So this deck is very, very reliant on having a lot of people and your social skills and, being like, hey, and yeah, and the other decks as well. So this deck is weird. This deck can be like here in terms of power level, or it can be here depending on the player. So it's really a floating card. If you're good at social politics in Commander and so on, it's easily the most powerful because you can go, plus it's a group hug deck, come on. If you're not, then this deck is not for you at all, right? And these ones are kind of there. So this is what I will say is the objective, trying to be objective, power level thing, right? In terms of my preference, when it comes to these decks. Now, I guess I spoiled you around talking about the decks because, yes, this is my favorite deck. So this is my favorite deck. Then I have mixed feelings, but I think this is the order, I think. And if you want me to be more like my actual feelings, will be something like this, right? Like my favorite deck, I'm okay with this too. I don't care that much about this one. For 2 reasons, right? I don't care, I care about this one because I like group hug, I like mind games, politics, and all that stuff. So this is my type of deck. And I actually like a lot Mr. Foxglove. Like, I can't tell you how much I like this card as a potential main commander, because it's just very aggressive and weird. I like it. You just need to protect it properly, give it flying or something. That's why Mrs. Bomberflower is here. But it's interesting. Now, these two, this one I feel it's kind of the typical Jeskai deck, like Hinata kind of thing. Hinata stacks, right? But, it's a typical deck that is just like, as long as you have mana in colors that don't have that good of a mana base by default. So it's like, as long as you have mana, you can do this cool thing and just start spell casting, spell slinging and stuff like that. It's cool. I like it. It doesn't make me crazy. It's like this one. I like the idea of the squirrels and the theme and so on, but I don't think it's executed to its fullest, which is a shame. And this one I just don't like that much, to be honest, because, well, I don't like Gruul by default, right? So that's the thing. But I don't like... I don't feel like the deck is properly... Like, either the commander was nerfed or the deck is not very well done. Like, this deck doesn't feel right to me. Now, mind you, if you like it, is your favorite, or you have it and you enjoy it, please let me know. Tell me that I'm wrong. I will be more than willing to read your take and be like, oh, okay, and like counter-argument maybe. I don't know. Like, we're here to discuss, right? But it really didn't hit the spot for me. Again, you're talking to the guy that likes that group hug deck, so it is what it is. So, it is what it is. Now, in terms of the most fun, which fun is very, very subjective and not necessarily my favorite. Like, my favorite is one thing. The most fun is a different thing. Now, in terms of the most fun, as it comes right off the box, I think that the most fun depends on your definition of fun, right? For me, the definition of fun is something chaotic, more or less, right? So I think it will be actually like these, maybe, like most fun for me because, well, and then these two are kind of crazy for multiple reasons, and this one is just standard. Like, this one feels like a good deck, you know what I mean? Like, this is why everyone says that this is the best deck objectively and the most powerful, because it's just a good deck that works, and it is what it is. But this one this can be very chaotic. If you're not like me, if you don't like group hug, then ignore this, right? I feel this is the funniest one. Well, the one to have most fun with, because it's very crazy. But if you don't like group hug, then take this as my opinion. I think that this is very chaotic, but chaotic for you. So if you want to that your deck keeps messing with you, sure, why not? And this is the same because of the squirrels. So these both feel like, wow, this is crazy, right? So, and I like that type of mechanic and flow with my decks. So with my deck, good thing I don't have an Australian accent or a New Zealand accent to be like with. So with my deck. So the thing is, in terms of fun, in terms of upgradability and possibilities, well, that's a tricky one, right? I think that objectively speaking, this is the strongest to upgrade by far, because anything that has entered the battlefield effects is in Jeskai colors is, you know, is on the spot. So, and creature spells that have like ongoing effects also hit home for this. So I think that objectively this is the easiest one to upgrade and the most powerful one to upgrade. So I think this one has the most possibilities. I think that this one is tricky actually, because there are not that many other squirrel spells. Like they are some squirrel spells, but not that many. So, and if you're not using squirrels, it really feels like this thing can work, but it's only half its capacity. You know what I mean? Like you can work without squirrels, but if you don't have squirrels, it feels like you're not doing your thing. You know what I mean? So this is interesting. Like I think that this one is easier to go crazy with, and this one is floating again, right? Because yeah, like it can go any way. Like you can put anything in this deck as long as it has these colors. Like it's like whatever. I actually think that this one is easier to upgrade than this one, and depending on your opinion, it can be like this, then this two, and then this. I think this one is the hardest to upgrade. Like not the hardest. It feels like the one with less potential. But why? Let me explain. You can do this without squirrels, and it works, but it feels handicap. You know what I mean? The deck and the commander itself, they feel handicapped because, you know, if you have a squirrel, it multiplies by 2. It's like it really wants you to have squirrels. If you are not going full crazy on the squirrels, it feels like, yeah, this effect is very good, but it's not as good as it can be, you know. And to use only like, it's not half of your commander, because you do get a copy, you just don't get 2 copies, right? So the commander is not that bad. Maybe I'm being too unfair, let me know, but it feels like that. This one feels like it can go any way, really, and this one as well. But in terms of which deck needs the most work to work right off the box, for me, I think is this one. This one needs the most work to fix it right off the box. Fix it. Not make it super duper. Fix it. Because like these ones, I think like this, right? Like to fix them, not make them crazy. Like, because this deck kind of works, but feels like half of the artifacts that are there are not really the type of artifacts that you want. The enchantments are there, not really the type of enchantments that you want. The creatures that are there, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like you really have to pick a lane. Like, pick a lane, really. Like, just go full enchantments, go full artifacts, go enchantments and artifacts, but like, pick a lane and go with it. And be very mindful of the mana value 4 or greater for the deck, right? And then this deck can be freaking crazy, but yeah. And this one, because you really need to double down those squirrels, because I am of that opinion, if you're not using squirrels, then not hitting, right? Or not hitting as hard as it could. And then these two just work, in my opinion. Like, you can obviously add cards to them, but it's not the same, you know what I mean? Now for a new thing, and the last thing, I promise, because this video is long enough already, I'm just so tired. Like, the secondary commanders, right? In terms of decks and their possibilities, which deck is what, right? Let's say this is the Bellow deck, right? Zinnia, Bumbleflower, and Hazel. In terms of because this is the thing that we can start doing, okay? You have to maximize your cardboard. Stop buying stuff just for the sake of it. If you're buying something, optimize it, right? You know, optimize it. You're paying bucks for your cards. Use the cards. So is the secondary commander, backup commander, alternative commander, whatever you want to call it, which ones if you play with these ones in your deck, which decks are better or are the best? And I have to say, the order is Mr. Foxglove, the Old Acorn Gang, and then, well, actually, a tie here. It's a tie here. Let me just move this. Like, it's a tie here, okay? So these two, this one and this one. So I feel like Mr. Foxglove, the deck just changes. It's crazy. Then Wild Seer just works, but not everything is an enchantment, so it doesn't work to its fullest. The Odd Acorn Gang, again, we have the squirrel problem. So there you go. And Poor Arthur. Oh, Poor Arthur. Poor Arthur. So that's kind of the thing. Now, overall, I think those are my impressions. Very long impressions, mind you. If I had to pick one, well, you already saw my preferences. It will be Mrs. Bumbleflower. But I think that overall, they are all very good decks. I like them a lot. I think that they actually went interesting directions with the deck, which, some kudos to the Wizards team. It gets more and more difficult to just keep inventing new ways of spinning the wheel. Even though the Magic system is almost, you can make a computer with it and all that stuff. You have to keep inventing cards and make them balanced and stuff like that. So, and a deck can go any number of ways. And I think that these decks are all good decks, right? Some are better decks, some are worse decks. But if you buy any of them, I think that you will have a very good Commander experience, which is something that I can't say for all Commander sets that are released, right? So Bloomburrow, in my opinion, is the hit even in the PreCon department. If you want a Group Hog deck, you have one. If you want a Squirrel deck, you have one. But if you want like a, I guess, token deck, which I guess is the theme, you have one. If you want, well, these are also tokens. So, and this is enchantments, kind of, and vehicles, kind of. Well, you see what I mean? Like, they are kind of all over the place, so you have different flavors for things. And I think if you play with the 4 of them, like we do in our play group, you can see them interacting with each other, as I imagine was intended. And it's, it's a very nice set of interactions, and they feel very balanced. It can go any way. They all play different. They all try to do their own thing. And overall, I like them very much. And with this, we're going to finish the video. Thank you very much for watching or for listening. Maybe listening, because this is more like a podcast. And if you had me in your second screen or in your background while you worked or something, thank you very much for listening. I hope you had a great time watching this video as I had doing it. And let me know down below if you agree, you disagree with my takes, my orders, so on. And I will see you next time on PAX and Recreation. Bye.